so the back end is built and you have a hub to hub distance. Mine came out to just under 56 inches hub face to hub face. Now you're thinking, oh, you want to match your front end to your back end. Well, we can do that. It doesn't matter what ATV you use, you can match your hub width or get your hub width that you want. So I have some Raptor 660 A-arms, I think, on the front of here, and I've got them on my jig. Check the channel if you haven't seen these. These make it really easy. Now all you're going to do is just measure center line of your frame to your hubs. This is 26 inches. For these specific ones, I have these set just outside the frame. So 26 times 2 is 52. We are 4 inches shy. So all you do is add the difference to your tabs. Add the difference to your tabs, right? So now if we measure from center line to the hub face, it is 28 inches to the center, giving you a 56-inch track width, hub to hub. Now to lock it in a little better, I'm going to enlist the help of our old friend, the frog tape. I'm just going to run a line across. This way I can mark exact center line. Now once I have a super accurate center line marked, I can really lock in exactly where I want this hub. All right. So I've got these Raptor 660 front A-arms pretty much locked in. Now I get a lot of questions about wheelbase. What is the wheelbase? Well, it's a VF frame, variable frame. You can do whatever you want. Obviously there's a range, but if you want a shorter wheelbase, I left you enough room on these to position these wherever you want. So you can have a shorter wheelbase or longer wheelbase depending on your target, your goals, right? I like a shorter wheelbase, but I also like the tire to come out in front so that if you're jumping, you're not going to bottom out here. You're going to bottom out your suspension and your tires first. So that's what I personally shoot for with my goals of building. But if you're going to be on the street, you're not going to be jumping, you're on a tight course, you can pull this back, have a shorter wheelbase if you'd like. So these are the Raptor 660 A-arms. These are Predator 500 arms. And obviously they are not the same length, right? But that's where the tab adjustment comes in. Looks like these are maybe 2 inches longer than these Raptor 660 A-arms. So our tabs are going to be roughly 2 inches long. It's that easy. So now I'll just take a final measurement once everything's set where I like it. And I will note exactly how long my tab needs to be. Then I'll just make the tabs. All right, so now we just transplant the measurements over to our steel bars. I'm using 1.5 inch flat bar because I'm mounting it to 1.5 inch tubing. So it makes the notches nice, makes it a lot of weld area. I'm using 1/8 inch thick. I know a lot of you guys think that's too small, but this is a very lightweight vehicle. The reason I use this, number one, is because it's even thinner on the ATV frame than 1/8 inch. And it's proven. I've been doing this for a long time and I've never had one of my tabs break, but it seems to work out really well, so I'm going to stick with it. So I have 2 because I'm going to make 8 total. I'm going to do the left and right side. We need 4 per side. We get 2 out of here, 2 out of here, 2 out of here, 2 out of there. So that's 8 total tabs. Hit the machines once and we'll be done. You guys want to have all this stuff laser cut for you? I'm going to have this done in 10 minutes. That's before you can even make a cup of coffee and fire up your computer to design it. This works really well. So get in there and do the work and you'll have a buggy faster than you know it. All right, so just to break this down, I came in 5/8. I just like to use 5/8, and that's going to be my hole for the A-arm mount. And then I came in the distance I wanted. For this one, I'm using 2 3/4 inches, and then that's the end of the hole saw. And then the hole saw is an 1.5 inch hole saw, so I centered that at 3/4 of an inch. All the ones with carrots I'm going to punch, right? So don't punch these. That's just the end limits of your hole saw. And then I came out another 2 3/4 inches for the other bolt hole, and then 5/8 for the cutoff. Now this is going to make 2 tabs, 1 tab here, 1 tab here, and this will be a hole saw cut. Repeat that process 4 times and you've got 8 tabs. What did I tell you? 8 tabs, ready to go, less than 10 minutes. Love it. So next up, as you may have guessed, is just attaching our tabs to our A-arms. Then we can kind of check and see how we're looking. I think we're looking pretty all right. Let's get a measurement. Center to hub face is 28 inches. So we're gonna have a perfectly square 28 rear, 28 front. So when we do our wheel offsets, when we get them, we're gonna know exactly where we're sitting and how to adjust for whatever we need to do. Now, since this is the XL, I'm going to run a minimum of a 25-inch tire. Small wheels don't look that great. I'm sure they function well, but they just don't look that great. So I'm gonna step it up to a little bit taller of a tire, and I'm gonna use my tire as my reference point for the front end. So it looks like right now we have a little bit of a bumper. I think I might leave it right there. Wow, good eye. And now we can shift our attention to the top or upper A-arms. All right, so with the lower A-arm tacked in, now we can concentrate on the upper A-arm. Now I want it nice and centered. I want these distances equal so I don't get a bad measurement. So I'm just gonna measure from the bar out to the center of the bolt. Looks like it's 2 1/4 inches. So that's the length of my tab from the top bar to the hole. And that is for 0 camber. So for 0 camber, we're gonna run it the exact distance. Now these arms don't have adjustability. And to be honest, I've found that if I set these at 0, they end up coming in 1/2 degree or a degree. So I will shoot for 0 and I'll get some natural camber. I'm not sure from what, maybe because this is not exact. But I know if I just match all of this up, the frame is square. So as long as I make my tab square and use flat planes like these pieces of wood, the geometry is going to come out great. Let's get these tabs made. All right, so let's talk about front end alignment. There are a few factors that you need to consider before you weld this up or even tack it in. There are geometry angles involved here, but they are all adjustable. We just gotta pay attention to them before we lock everything down. Now, the first one is the obvious one. It is camber, right? So I wanna make sure everything is straight and parallel, your hub parallel to the mounting point. And you wanna make sure that this is 0 or whatever camber you wanna set it to, right? Now the second one is caster. Caster is the offset from the top A-arm to the bottom A-arm and is the angle of your hub facing forward and back. This is what gives you that feedback in your steering. If you're turned and you have caster, your wheel automatically wants to go straight if you let go. If you do 0 caster, it's gonna make your steering very, very light. Now, I run about I don't know, 3 to 6 degrees of caster. And I can tell you it's not incredibly important. Just getting a little bit of caster will work out great. The pitch up on the front is set at, I think, 6 degrees. So I usually just try to match that or come as close as I can. The most important part is matching it right to left, okay? The second big thing we have to consider is shock clearance, right? If you put some big burly shocks on here, you have to make sure you can clear your upper A-arm with them. Now, since we are adapting ATV parts, ATVs typically have smaller shocks. So I can see already that this shock is going to be too big. This is a 2-inch Fox body shock. Might be off the side-by-side or a bigger four-wheeler. These don't weigh as much as those, so they don't need as big of shocks. Now, when it comes to shocks, by the way, these are 1.5-inch Fox body shocks with I think around a 160 pounds per inch spring rate. So you can see the diameter is considerably smaller, which means it's going to fit better into our A-arm setup. Look at that. Look at how nicely that fits in there. So not only does our caster have to match right to left, but it has to provide clearance for our shock. And I can see that our upper is too far back. I tend to lean more towards making clearance for the shock than I do worrying solely about the caster angle. I hope that makes sense. You want your shocks to be perpendicular to your A-arm setup. If you run this in or out, you're going to get stiction and it's going to wear out your shock and it's not going to function as well. But these have rubber bushings, so it's not critical to the nearest 0 degrees, all right? You've got some wiggle room. So get that set up, make sure everything's nice and flat. This actually just went right together, easy as pie. So I'll do some fine adjustments, get it tacked in, and this side will be done. How crazy is that? All right, so we are 8 tabs away from a full-on roller minus a steering rack. And I just wanted to show you guys something. Oof. In my previous video, I think I made this look a lot bigger than it is. Now, it is a bigger frame, and I had 2 thoughts on that. Number one, the taller and bigger guys wanted their own Crosskart. So this definitely checks that box. This has tons of room in it. But as you can see, it's not as big as I made it look, and I apologize for that. It's hard to get the size of just a frame. You put some wheels and arms on it and the seat in the correct position, you're going to see the actual dimensions of it, right? So that was one train of thought. The other was for a guy my size, I'm 5'11", I could raise the seat up to normal position, and I could maybe run a drive shaft under the seat to a front differential, right? So this could be the first 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive Crosskart, because that's kind of what I designed this one too. It's bigger. I could put cup holders in here. I could put speakers in here. There's lots of options because I have more space. It's not necessarily built to be a race car for the average guy. It's made to be a race car for the bigger and taller guys, but it could be used for something else. So, I mean, this is awesome. So I was gonna make it a full-on roller and I got to the suspension mounting, and I have a feeling you guys want me to go a little more in depth into the suspension, set up my thought process and how I mount them and how I do the different modes. So we'll take a time out here, and the next video will be my process for setting up the suspension on these. Till next time, enjoy the build, and thank you guys so much.